Hey people, it's Hannah Aloe Nottingham. Last month I did my first unboxing video, and this month I'm gonna do, or today rather, I'm gonna do my very first plant tour. Now, part of me is a bit sad when I think about it, when I thought about making this video just now, that I've never done a plant tour before, because there's been many times when I've had hundreds, if not thousands, in fact, definitely thousands of plants in one room, but they were always the same plant before. They were always all aloe vera. And what I came to realize over time was, from a personal perspective and for my customers, I need to have more variety. It got a little bit monotonous. And as you all know, I'm Mr. Aloe Vera. I love aloe. I spread, the message, and whatever, any chance I get, I sell the aloe vera leaves. But yeah, from a plant point of view, both as a personal lover and as, trying to do it commercially, I realized I needed a lot of variety. Now, the reason I'm making this video as well is because I've just landed a couple of major sales. I'm not going to get into details about where or what. Obviously, in time, I'm going to be wanting to promote all of that, and I'm going to be sharing it. You'll probably get sick of seeing it at some point, but I hope not, because I'll try and, find a nice balance with that. But yes, a couple of major sales, and so I've just been and told a neighbour friend of mine, and I've realised I'm probably not going to have a lot of these plants in here within about 3-4 days, which is a bit of a weird thought in once. And don't get me wrong, after I've done all the deliveries, I'm pretty sure I'm still going to have a jungle in here, but it's not going to be as jungly because, like I say, I've landed some major sales, and so I thought it's a perfect time to do a tour. Otherwise, I'll be sad that I didn't get to showcase everything. I'll start at the minute. We're in my living room. It's a very unprofessional setup. Convid and Brexit put later. I used to have commercial units in town, and so I stopped at that point. And so now, at the minute, I'm working from home, but having landed these deals, we may be going commercial again very soon. But at the minute, we're in my living room. What you're looking at, and have been for the last couple of minutes, is a couple of racks that I've got in the window, and you can see the windowsill itself in the background. What I'll do is I'll quickly start at this end just to show you. I have here my Monstera Thai constellations. Those are the variegated ones you can see there. They all need tying up to moss poles, so if they're looking a little bit scraggly, that's the reason why. I haven't got around to doing that yet, but they're a very rare, unique kind of Monstera, which you don't see available everywhere. They are becoming more popular, certainly. Next to it, you can see some normal Monsteras there. Then down here, the Monstera deliciosa Swiss cheese plant. Now you can see some of the leaves on those aren't fenestrated. They haven't got the Swiss cheese effect. I think it's because I need to move them closer to the window. They can survive happily where they are, but they could certainly do with being a bit closer to the light, because the more light they get, the more happy they are to fenestrate, to create the gaps in the leaves, because they have enough leaf left for photosynthesis, if you like. Down here, I've got the Monstera albos on the right hand side. They're another variegated type of Monstera, different to the Thai constellation. And on the left hand side, those are Monstera aurea sport. So again, a different kind. They're also variegated, but I think at the minute they're too young, so that will emerge. And in the corner, you can see a bit of a tray of aloe vera. Anyone who knows me knows that that's been my main plant for a very, very, very long time. So yeah, moving back towards the rack, I'll actually move into the window because then I won't be fighting the light. So let me come around this side. In fact, while I'm here, this is a new addition in the last couple of months. These are, the names actually changed recently. So they are Gasteria bicolor now, but they were Gasteria obliqua or Gasteria maculata obliqua, and their common names are ox's tongue or lawyer's tongue. They have a very wide kind of leaf pattern to them. I'll come around here so you can actually see it in the light. They have a very unusual. Now, this plant was a rescue plant, so it was in one pot. It had God knows, about 20 plants in one pot, and I think it came from an elderly lady's house, and so clearly it had been neglected for a while. And although I've had a chance to repot them all, I haven't gotten into cleaning the leaves yet. So you can see on there, now that will be affecting photosynthesis, it will be affecting the health of the plant. Not enough so that it's having any problems, but certainly it needs a clean. I mean, you can see just with my finger there, I'm removing some dust, so that needs cleaning. And you'll see in a minute from the other plants, that's not like my doing or from my place. That's how the plant came, and I just haven't had time to clean it yet. While we're here, we've got the Aloe brevifolias. So brevifolia means short-stemmed or short-leaved. So these are aloe plants. They do have some medicinal uses similar to the aloe vera, but it's more topical, and I don't know enough about that to speak on it. So I would say do your own research if you intend to do that. Frankly speaking, being Mr. Aloe, I would say stick to the aloe vera barbadensis miller. There's been a lot more research and information about that is available, and we all know it's, you know, good as gold, so stick to the aloe vera for that. But these are very ornamental. They're a bit more cactus looking because they have very sharp spikes, and they're all the way down the edge of the leaves. I also have, if I bring you down here, there's a nice tray of Aloe brevifolia. They're all looking a bit variegated at the minute. I think that's just because I've probably had them at the back of the cupboard rather than at the front, so a little bit of light and they'll go back green, but they look pretty pretty as they are, to be honest with you, with a little bit of lime yellow effect going on. And so yeah, so those are, let me see if I can pan all of those for you. So those are the Aloe brevifolia just there. I've got one bunch here where there's 4 big ones growing together, and then a bunch of a few individuals, and you can see some babies are popping out near the bottom. So normally I'd love to grab and propagate. I'll probably leave those to grow and see how the plant develops in time, because now I'm getting to a position where I have a lot of babies of everything, so I can actually let the mother plants develop. What you're looking at right here is I'm going to double check, it's some kind of black gem. It says Alworthia black gem. I wonder if that's meant to say Haworthia black gem. And so it's a very aloe looking thing. There's a lot of overlap between, excuse my hand there, there's a lot of overlap between Gasterias, Haworthias, aloes, and as I mentioned with the Gasteria obliqua, they often get renamed and reclassified, so that's always going on in the botany world. But yeah, that's an absolute beauty. To the untrained eye, that could look the same as the other, like the Aloe brevifolia or aloe vera, but to me that's very clearly different. And I think it's called black gem. If you look at that leaf there, you can see a sort of darker stripe coming through the leaf. So I think that's what that's about. Maybe I'm going into too much detail about all the plants. As I said, it's my first tour, so do bear with me, because I do want to get through everything and not make it an epic video. Moving along, we've got some Christmas cactus here. Those are just some cuttings that I put into a pot. They're not looking very happy at the minute, but they are alive, so one would have to assume that they are rooting. That's another Monstera albo, but it's a little bit smaller, so I've got it with the collection here. Here we've got some sedum, burrito's tail. I always get mixed up with this. It's burrito succulent or donkey tail or something like that. At the minute I've just got them rooting. I think the roots are visible in the propagation station there. Funky little propagation station actually. Can I just show you there? I've never realized before it's probably based on a globe actually, so let's not go there. But it is very cute, and so yeah, we've got a couple of those going. In fact, that's another very funky propagation station. Pretty cool, huh? I used to have a load of these things tucked away in cupboards, and I realized get them out and use them rather than saving them for later, because there is no later. This is later. Right, we're beginning on some succulents here. This is part of my personal collection more than anything I'm trying to sell at the minute. Just various Haworthias. I'm not going to pretend I'm au fait with all the names of these. The one at the back's an Echeveria. There'll be, like I say, there'll be different Gasterias, different Haworthias. Anything I do know the name of, I'll obviously tell you. This one's of particular interest to me. I love these kind of flat head living stone types. You get a lot of conophytums, living stones they're called. They're very cool. I actually, from the plant swap last week, the watered garden plant swap, I got these as well. And the lady said to me, they've already grown, they've probably tripled in size since last week, which is pretty cool. And the lady who swapped with me, she said they will just spread around the pot to grow, which is pretty funky. I like the idea of that. And I think it's going to be a variation on this one here. Moving along again, we've got a bunch more succulents, a couple of aloes there as well. Some interesting names. This is a particular favourite of mine. Rainworty? Horworthia rainworty, I would guess. Rainwortii, you would say, I guess. Yeah, that's a particularly beautiful one. That's similar to a Crassula Buddhist temple, which is another one that I want that I don't have yet. These are pretty beautiful. I think that's some kind of either tiger aloe or zebrina, something like that. Don't quote me on the names, as I say. I'm not 100% on these. I am Mr. Aloe Vera, not Mr. Aloe, to be specific. I was just clarifying that I am Mr. Aloe Vera, not Mr. Aloe. And so I don't know all the variations and the different species of the aloe, although I am getting more and more into it. I think I've got some down there I can show you in a moment. I'm starting to see the real beauty in the variation. I think before I'd got pretty obsessed with the aloe. I'd got pretty obsessed with the medicinal benefits of the aloe vera and the general applications. And now I've got more back to my plant roots, and so I'm doing both at the same time essentially, which is probably the best path for me and what I'm into. Now, just under this collection of, in fact, I've just realized I've missed out. I've got a little tray here of different things propagating. So we've got some leopard lily, we've got some prickly pear, some aloe brevifolia. I think there's even a snake plant in the back corner there. So that's just a little tray that I'm just seeing what it does in its own time. Underneath, I've got a tray of aloe vera. They're all bunches. So when I say bunches, there's, anything between 3 and 10 plants in each pot. And yeah, they were also a rescue. Somebody bought me 3 huge pots of aloe vera that were not looking too good, and so I ripped them apart, did my thing, and they're looking pretty happy right now. Got a random prickly pear here. This is an experiment. It came off a plant. This would have been one straight branch, and then it would have got damaged or bent somehow. And so what I decided to do was plant both ends of it rather than just planting one end to propagate it. I thought I'll plant them both, create like a weird bridge structure, and it's been there over a year without doing anything. And this is the first year it seems to have grown a bit, and it's now growing the baby as well. So it's clearly rooted, and that's just tucked away randomly in between the aloe vera. Got a few more aloe vera back there. I mentioned a cupboard a couple of times earlier. This is one of them. There's some Apuntia micro daisies there, so there's a smaller variation like the mini Apuntia or nopal cactus. I've got 2 or 3 different kinds there. I think there's Ruffida. I'm not sure of the other names, the specifics. If you can see tucked away there, these are more Monstera Monstera aureas, the same as you saw over there with the variegation. It's not quite appeared yet. Although it seems to be developing. They look a lot lighter than the ones over there, so maybe the same as the Deliciosa. I need to move the other ones you saw before into more light. And then behind there, tucked away, are some money plants, some Jade Money Plants or Crassula Ovata. Those are literally the scraps compared to what I'll show you in a moment of my Crassula collection, or to be specific, my Crassula Ovata collection. But yeah, they can manage without direct light, so they're happy there. They're in little terracotta pots. In the corner here, I have a jade bonsai tree that you can see little leaves propagating on. All the sticks around it, they're tied up with some paracord. I can probably remove those by now, to be fair. I don't think there's any risk, but because it's such a beautiful trunk from a very aged plant. I didn't want to take any risks, so that will be rooted. That will have rooted by now, but it won't be. The roots won't have stabilized the trunk as yet. You can see a few mini monsteras up there. I'm calling them mini monsteras. They're actually just Swiss cheese plants, but you know, they're cuttings from the baby end of the plant. And they're looking super cute. And I think there's a tiny in the corner hiding another prickly pear cactus. And then this is a green spider plant. Now, I did not know until I got this that green spider plants existed. Now, I have a normal spider plant just here. I say normal, the variegated one seems to be much more common, and you can see all the little babies growing off that on their stalks. But yeah, I got a green one. I bought that off a marketplace, and then at the watered garden plant swap I actually got this one in the middle here, and that is apparently from Morocco. I forget the brother's name off the top of my head, but the guy basically swiped it, brought it back, and he's propagated it. So that's a pretty cool little story. I need to find out the details, which botanical garden or whatever, where it came from. And so yeah, let's see how that develops in time. And then just tucked under this spider plant, you can see that little jade money tree. It's a teeny tiny bonsai, and at some point that's going to be going into a marmee pot. I think you can just about make out the leaves on that. And yeah, so that's obviously rooted. And then in the corner I've got a massive, I believe it's a Yucca elephantites. Again, don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure I'm right. Massive stalk there. You can see the height of that. That's the entire height of my windowsill, or the bay window. Next to it, an aloe vera. I actually bent that leaf myself, which I'm quite annoyed about, because other than that it was a fairly perfect plant. I mean, this leaf got a little bit droopy of its own accord, but if I removed that it would have been perfect. But then I tried to, it was one of these leaves where it started curling over towards the light. So in my wisdom I did my hanging trick that I've shown on another post, if not video, where I hang something, but then I left it too long and I must have angled it wrong, and when I came back it was like this. So that's entirely my doing, but you live and you learn. So that's one of my aloe veras. I have another aloe vera down here in a terracotta pot. This is one that I'm babying myself. One of my big ones in the background that you can just make out. And then behind here we've got more apunchi prickly pear cactus. We've got a big sedum in the window there. I'm not sure of the specific name. That might be donkey tail and the other one's burrito. Like I said, I always get mixed up with those. I'm not quite versed in those yet. And then to the side you can see another prickly pear that's quite large. Now before I move along the window, I'm going to bring you back to this corner. I have here a massive Opuntia or Opuntia monocantha. Now that is a variegated prickly pear cactus plant, and it is absolutely amazing. Can you see that faded leaf there and some of the patterning over here? That is all natural variegation, and it is absolutely gorgeous. It's so unusual. I only discovered these plants about a month or two ago when I went to buy them. I didn't know they existed, and when I went to buy them I thought I was buying normal prickly pear. I didn't even know it was a variegated version, so I got super lucky there. I'm going to do a whole post about that guy and the place and whatever, because it was amazing. It was just like a hobby grower, but clearly knew what he was doing. This is a rubber plant that I got from the watered garden. I've actually worked hard to destroy this plant, if all be told, because it's lost a few leaves. I've moved it a couple of times. I've repotted it, and it's alive, but it's not the happiest. And it was happy when I got it from the watered garden, so I have to take full responsibility. It is new to me. They are supposed to be simple to grow, so I don't know how I could possibly have messed that up, but it has got new growth on it, as you can see at the top, so I'm doing something right and something wrong. But that's part of the journey. You learn, you figure out. And that's one reason I don't ever buy super expensive plants, because it would hurt me if I were to kill them, you know, both the plant dying and the fact you lose a lot of money. So, but this one was very reasonable, and it was beautiful, and hopefully it will return to its original glory. That's the other thing with having this many plants, that there's always something beautiful to look at, so you don't need to worry too much if you have trouble with one in particular. I've got a little Dracaena down here on the floor. I actually chopped the top of this off recently because it had gone a bit multi-directional, shall we say, and so I've repotted that. We'll see how that goes, but that's a Dracaena just sat on the floor at the minute because I'm running out of space. Obviously that won't be a problem in a couple of days if all these sales go through. And here we have another massive, so I'll pan you from the top to the bottom and back down, a massive prickly pear cactus. It is on a table, so it's not on the bay window itself, but it's absolutely gigantic. Another thing I started doing in certain pots is just adding a little bit of decor. Again, bits I had around the house that were kicking around. I figure I actually used them. That's a Dutch house, I believe. Here we've got a little cactus sat on a bed of stones with one of my huge aloe vera. I've got two humongous aloe vera that I'll try and pan into view now. The one on the left is leaning badly, and that's going to be a whole project very soon. I have big plans on how to repot that, and it's going to be something very unique, but I won't get into that here because, as I say, it will have a dedicated video. And then the one to the right of it, that is an absolute picture. It's pretty perfect. Probably one leaf has lost, or two have lost the very tips. Now, the reason for all the big boulders and the stones is that these plants, particularly this one, that has gone very side heavy with its weird curled over branch or stem, there's no other way to weigh them down to hold them up. It's below the level of the pot because it was growing over a windowsill, my windowsill, and so there's no way to put it on the bay window itself because it will crush the bottom leaves. And so I've had to come up with this pretty bespoke way. I can't even figure out how I manage this on my own, because if I moved either of these pots right now, the other one goes flying, the table falls over. It's on like a fancy black table, and so these are literally just weighing it down. And then the other thing, I keep a removable one here so that I can feel how moist or dry the plant is, and then I can just put that back in there. Otherwise I can't see the soil, I can't tell how wet or moist it is. And the same with this one, it needs weighing down, not as much as this one because it's not leaning as badly, but it still needs weighing down. So that's what the stones are about. I've got a random Chinese money plant here, Pilea peperomioides. I like to call it pepperonioids jokingly because it looks a bit like pepperoni. That's not doing too good either. That's one that and the rubber plant I'm not having success with at the minute, but I'm sure they'll come back to full glory. This, interestingly, you can see everything's packed in so tightly. This gap here, I have to leave for my cat, because if I don't, it will just clamber all over my aloe vera, sit on a cactus and look at me defiantly. So I've had to leave him a gap into the window so that he can climb up there, sit there, and not basically attack all of my plants with wanton abandon. People often ask about toxicity with pets and things. I've got a cat, I've got a dog. My cat at one point was chewing on the spider plant when I first got the plant. Probably spent about 3 weeks chewing on it. I lost a few leaves. They have some psychedelic effect. They're hallucinogenic for cats. And after 3 weeks, the cat decided, no, don't want any more of that. And he's not touched it since. So I don't know if he had a bad trip. I don't know if he didn't like the taste, or if he's had enough, or he reached enlightenment and decided he didn't need any more help. But yeah, the plant's been safe. I've had a dog for 7 years, cat for a year now. I've always had plants, never had any issues. I always take all of that information with a pinch of salt. Yes, it would be tragic if anything were to happen to a pet, but I haven't seen any risk of that whatsoever personally at all. So that's just personal, anecdotal my comment on my own experience. I'm not claiming any knowledge. I'm not giving any advice whatsoever. Moving back to the middle where the big aloe veras were, underneath I've got an agave americana, I believe. Agave americana. That's new to me. That I got with all the other succulents. The guy just gave it to me, so I took it. It's very pretty, but it's never been my thing. I think I might be biased against agave because there was some stupid influencer who tried to demonstrate aloe vera, and they chewed into a big agave americana and poisoned themselves. I think they actually died from it. And so it was a big news story, and obviously it got framed as aloe vera was the problem when it had nothing to do with aloe vera. But having said that, that's just my little rant. Moving back to the middle where the big aloe veras were, underneath I've got an agave americana. That's new to me. That I got with all the other succulents. The guy just gave it to me, so I took it. It's very pretty, but it's never been my thing. I think I might be biased against agave because there was some stupid influencer who tried to demonstrate aloe vera, and they chewed into a big agave americana and poisoned themselves. I think they actually died from it. And so it was a big news story, and obviously it got framed as aloe vera was the problem when it had nothing to do with aloe vera. But having said that, that's just my little rant. just a very beautiful plant, and in time I wouldn't be surprised if I get more agaves. We have a money plant here that I've planted myself. It's looking pretty decent and big right now. And then behind it I've got some mother of thousands, Mexican hat plants. The proper name is, oh, that's terrible, Kalanchoe digramontiana. I was saying that's terrible because that used to be one of my old babies, and so I should know that. But yeah, they get little babies growing all the way along the edge of the leaves. Behind that, I have looked them up, but I forget the names. One's a blue rope cactus or a blue cord cactus, and I forget the name of the other one, but you can see they're two separate, they're in separate pots. I love the one on the right particularly, it's very alien looking. Those cactus have, the one on the right has big spikes, but they don't stick into you. The one on the left, they're smaller, furrier spikes, and they actually stick into you like locusts from the opuntii. So, but they're both beautiful. In time, I will separate and propagate those individually, but it's not at the top of the list. Behind that, you can see another monocantha that I've stuck in the windowsill just to see how that reacts differently to the others. I think that's fruit developing on the top. If not, it will be flowers, so that's very cute. I've got an aloe vera next to it just there in a pot. Now the rocks that I've got there are actually volcanic lava rock, so I was experimenting with that as a top dressing, and also it's meant to help the health of the plant. In front of it I've got a ZZ plant just here that I got at the plant swap, the watered garden that was hosted at Movers in town. That's pretty funky, something new to me. Here we go, let's see. Zamioculcas zamiflorii, or Zamii flora, the ZZ plant. That's not bad off the top of my head. So yeah, that's looking beautiful. I've staked it up a little bit just to give it some support. You can see another Mexican hat plant just in the middle there. And then here I've got another rubber plant, Ficus elastica, looking a lot healthier than the big one I've got, that I got from the swap last week. Some Echeveria, Transcendentia, Jade Golem, Hobbit, perhaps. I get mixed up between the Golem and the Hobbit because I've never had a lot of either. It looks like it needs a little bit of help, so I might repot that at some point, but it's still going fairly strong. Aloe arborescens behind it, that's one that I wanted to get into for a while, but I've been stuck on the aloe vera. Again, some medicinal properties, but there's more specific of a process to that one, so I'm definitely not commenting on that. Another prickly pear cactus behind that, that's a ruffida, I believe. It has a more, like the furry dots behind the spikes, they have a more red tinge to them. It's particularly pretty. I've got it stuck right in the windowsill just so it gets maximum light. If you can see that cactus in the gap there, that's actually one of my dad's old cacti, Rebutia or Rebutia perplexa. I might have another example in, another example just here. That's the original, I believe. It would have had a bigger one in the middle that's died off through neglect, and then the babies, and now obviously I'm taking a lot of care of it because it's one of my dad's old plants. This cactus is also one of my dad's old plants. I was telling someone earlier that this is probably 35 years old. This one just here, again I've got stones in that because it's trying to tip over a little bit, and also to prop it up. It was leaning a little bit, as you can probably tell, and so I've straightened it up. At some point I will repot that, and when I do I will straighten it up and repot, you know, the bottom will be at a slight angle. Here we have on the label it says Opuntia subulata. I think I've had one before. Its common name is Eve's Needle, I think, and it's Ostropunch. I'm messing it up now. Ostrocylindrapuntia subulata, I think is the original name. Had to flex the Latin there because that's quite a whopping name. Absolute beauty. It's got some babies around the bottom, so similar to the other alien cactus that will get repotted at some point, like propagated. Another column cactus there. I don't know if that's Rebutia perplexa or something similar. It looks very similar to it, but not quite the same. I don't know what the actual name is. And then in the corner here, so we've worked our way from one corner of the windowsill in the corner here to this corner. I've got a mother plant, Swiss cheese plant, Monstera deliciosa. Taking a fair few cuttings off that one. Now I'm just leaving it be, see what it does. In the corner we've got two different kinds of transcendentia. So again, in time they will take off. They're the trailing plants, similar to the purple one down here. Let me see, move you back to the racks for a minute. Down here we've got some Ledeboria socialis, that is leopard lily, wood hyacinth or silver squill, they're different common names for it. The mother plant is just here. It was much bigger when I first got it a few years ago, then some neglect, now it's coming back, and everything scraggly coming off it are actually flowers. It's flowering at the minute, which is pretty cool. Something very unusual, I've got some aloe veras here that are laid down. So what's happened is, so this is a pot, but the plant's nowhere near it. The stalk has grown, and then this plant here is the one that's coming from that pot, and then this pot here, the plant is moving along, and it's actually this one all the way over here. So it's looping behind the other pots. These I was given recently. These are plants that have been neglected and then very, very, very well looked after to achieve this weird effect. And so normally I would have chopped off the heads, replanted them and started again. But because they're so unique, I'm keeping them as they are. But it's a bit awkward to keep them. I'm having to like lace a load of other plants in between, or a load of pots in between. Here we have another, at the back, some Haworthia, Gasteria, Sabrina type jobby. Got some random sedums in between, some succulents. That's the edge of the aloe vera, they're the bunches, and then I've got a couple of singles potted up. Another Haworthia type up here. I think I skipped past it earlier after the Aloe brevifolia, but I've got a load more Gasteria obliqua, and those are the propagations. I'm just testing out a Jade Money Plant. I think that's a minima, so the leaves will stay fairly small, and like if I pull that up, look, you can see all the leaves coming off there. I mean, I could probably pull that up, to be fair, but I'm just experimenting with it. So I've got loads in pots that I'll come to in a bit. So that one, to be fair, I need to be careful it doesn't outgrow the opening and then I can't actually get it out. But for now, that's looking pretty cool. And so I think that covers the racks and the windowsill. So all we have left now is the plant room. Although it's kind of ironic because I almost missed one of my star players here, saying that this jade plant, I've shown you all the little pots that are in the big pot. Now I'm talking about the big pot itself. This jade plant is my original mother plant that all the other jades, or most of them, have come from. What I did with this one was I stripped it down completely. It came from a plant that was about 30 years old, but it hadn't been maintained. It had been grown well, but it hadn't been shaped or pruned well, and so the shape and the size of it was a bit weird. And so I stripped it down completely, as you can see, left it to callus over for a good 2 months at least, if not more. I'll have a picture somewhere where I had it just lying at the top of my bookshelf, so that it was out of the way of the cat, because the cat swiped it once and infected it at the bottom, and I had to, or it got infected, I shouldn't say the cat infected it. I think it swiped it with its paw, left a gash, and then some infection crept in. So at the bottom I had to chop about 6 inches off just to clear it, the rest of the plant, of the infection. Excuse me. It was a bit sad because it would have been an even bigger bonsai. But yes, it's looking gorgeous now. It's finally taken root. Again, the roots won't have stabilized the trunk yet, and that's why I've got all these sticks in place up and down it like stakes. But we do have new growth, and that is the main thing, because that shows that it's still alive. It's rooting. To be fair, the new growth had started while it was lying at the top of my bookshelf. because the trunk contains so much water that the plant can just stay alive. And so yeah, in time the idea is that there would be a little cluster of jade leaves here, a little cluster here, a little cluster here, and obviously in time I'll work on that, but that is my mother plant. The other one that I showed you over here, that is off the same plant, and again I'm creating a jade bonsai out of that. Now I say bonsai, I use the word loosely because they're very big trees, but the idea is that they look like huge trees, so in time I'll be growing them, pruning them, shaping them accordingly. So I believe now we really are done with the windowsill and the racks, so it's time to move you into my plant room, as so called. I mean, there are more plants in the window and the rack, so let's see if we can get that in focus. There we go, that's the entrance. Now you can see the letterbox there on my front door. I actually keep a roll of magazine or something stuck in there for ventilation, because there's no other ventilation in this room. The door shuts to the living room, and so that way there's a little bit of ventilation in there. Let's try and give you a full shot before I go in. It's a small room, so I don't know if I'm going to be able to make the angles to show everything, but I'll start from the very beginning. We've got snake plants here. In between them I've got a polka dot begonia, or a begonia maculata, I think the guy called it who sold it to me. Got lots of snake plants, and then here we have another jade bonsai. In fact, I tell a lie, we have another two, because there's another one next to it here. So these are both, again, branches or limbs from the mother plant. As I say, I stripped the mother plant completely, and so these are all the branches I've got from it. Anything that was particularly nice in terms of shape, I have planted as a bonsai, and I will be babying them. I have sold some of them, but I am keeping most of those for my personal collection. My main jade collection is actually in my bedroom now, because I was running out of space, and the jade seemed to manage okay in a north-facing window. It's a fairly bright north-facing window because we're in June at the moment, May, June, and so even though we haven't had the best spring or summer yet, it has been fairly bright, or bright enough for them. Now moving along, very quickly, I suppose I should include, even though they're not strictly plants, have a little pot selection going on down here. Some of them are plant pots, some of them are just a bit more improvised. A couple of cricklades in there. Some, if any of you know your pots, you'll know they're fancy pots. And yeah, I just keep those. I suppose while I'm doing pots, I could show you the top as well quickly. We have various pots, bonsai pots, vases, glass pots that I use for my terrariums, very fancy bonsai pot, medieval looking vases and all sorts. So that's all the way around here. Now with the new sales that I mentioned at the beginning of this video, and the reason I'm making the video so that I can do it while I have all of my plants still, or this abundance of plants, I'm actually hopefully going to be able to display some of these beautiful things so that people can see them and buy them, and they can be available, because there's no point them just being stacked here. That's a particularly beautiful bonsai set. I bought the bonsai mame tray and I already had the stand, and putting them together, they just look absolutely just made for each other. So in time I think I'll be doing something with that as opposed to just selling it. While I've got you up here, I'll just pan down. We're on the top shelf of the rack at the minute, and you can see some of my nicer jade plants. They're smaller bonsais, or bonsais in the making. See if I can get you into any kind of angle here. Looking really healthy and happy. Now they're not ideally positioned, they're on the top shelf over here, but they still get enough light. At some point I'll have to move them. The top ones, you know, you can see they're nearly touching the shelf. I do constantly move around the plants, because as they sell as new requirements, as I obtain new plants, I have to keep on rejigging it. Right, these are my Jade Minima. I feel like there's a proper name for them that I'm forgetting right now, but they're essentially miniature jade plants, Crassula Ovata. And when I say miniature, obviously all plants start off small, but these will stay small. The leaves will stay a certain size, regardless of how big the plant gets. Is it compactor? My memory's failing me right now. There's a proper name for them, and I'm completely forgetting it. There might be the odd Crosby compact in between all of these as well, if not a few. But maybe that's where I'm getting mixed up with the compactor. Crosby compact, those are Crassula ovata, where the leaves are very small and they stay very close together on the trunk. And so it gives it a very compact, very filled out kind of effect, which is really cool. At the minute, I'm just propagating a load of these just to get them going. I don't have, this is all I have of these, what you're looking at right now. And so I'm not selling any of these. I'm trying to multiply them so that I've got a couple of mother plants and, you know, I've got an ongoing supply of them because they're too cute and I could do a lot with these. So that's pretty cool. Top shelf we're still on. I've got a massive polka dot begonia. I am literally, the phone is above my head trying to pan this in, so I hope you can see that. I can't even see the screen right now. But yeah, that's absolutely gorgeous. Top shelf for a reason, really. Chinese money plant, Pilea peperomioides. Not looking too happy. It's got a bit of yellowing and so forth. I've got one in the window, as you saw earlier, and one here. And again, I think I'm better with the cacti and succulents, so I need to adjust a little bit for the more foliage plants. Having said that, when I looked it up, I'm pretty sure they said treat this like similarly to a succulent. But yeah, it's happy, it's healthy, it's got a few babies going on. It's just, can you see the babies there? It's just not as perfect as it could be, so in time I will like give that some loving care. In between, you can see I've got a jade forest. It's just in some kind of ice cream tub, to be fair, with some holes drilled in it. But that's particularly nice. I think this one and this one, I don't know if they have a specific name, but they have fairly large leaves on them, and so they don't seem like the normal jade. They're a little bit bigger. So that one's looking amazing. I am just waiting for that to go a bit bigger, or possibly get root bound, pot bound, and then I will repot that and it's going to look amazing. Not messing with it at all. I'm not pruning it. I'm not snipping, nothing. So yeah, moving to the middle shelf. It's a bit of a shame that I can't pan out and show you all of this in one shot, but there's literally just isn't the space to go far enough back, or even at an angle. Here are some of my terrariums. I've made all of these myself. Just various succulents. Got some sedum, Rubutia perplexa, Aloe brevifolia, the leopard lily, Ledeboria socialis, spider plant. So that's the 5 in those, and then the volcanic lava rock. And then over here, again, it's very similar. I think the only differences are, oh no, it's, to be fair, this has got a Christmas cactus, jade minima, prickly pear cactus, sorry Bubba, spider plant, Ledeboria socialis, and then it's got the sedum at the very back, just peeking out. One thing I found is some of the sedums are very phototropic, and same with one of the cacti in the window. I'm having to turn them every 2 or 3 days or they start to lean, which is great because it means they're actively growing, but you do have to sort of keep on top of that, otherwise within a week, I mean this one you can see is leaning over. It has started to straighten up already, so it doesn't take very long. That, yeah, in fact, the speed that they come back, I have another one down here, and literally, I'll get to these in a minute, don't worry, and yeah, this one was completely leaned over, turned it round, came back to it the following day, and it had almost stood up. So they're very phototropic. Phototropic just means they chase the light, the sunlight. There's another terrarium at the back there. It's not strictly a terrarium because the plants are sort of more out of the vase than they are in it. But you can see the effect there with all the sand, the layers basically. You have sand, soil mixed with perlite, then perlite. That looks like more sand, and then rocks, and then stones, and then volcanic lava rock. So it's all just to make a nice effect. The plants are looking super happy in those. They've been planted at least, I think, a couple of months now. And so, yeah, we're looking good there. Moving along the middle shelf, we have a Monstera aurea that I've just decided to put in a different place. You can actually see the variegation just start to appear on that leaf there. Oh, and oh yeah, that's so cool. I hadn't seen the leaf underneath. And so when I said earlier with the aurea sports that they were too young for the variegation, I did wonder if I'd made a mistake after that, that, you know, some of them, they do have variegation on the younger leaves. But as you can see here, it's just starting to come through now. And so very soon all of those should have those nice speckles to them. We've got a little jade bonsai that I'm developing to put in a mame pot there. It's on a little African family sculpture that I got from my dad years ago, and I thought it's actually a candle holder, I think, and I've been using it as that for years. And suddenly it occurred to me, why not just stick a plant on it? It looks beautiful. So there we go. We have two that I've picked out for myself. A Puncha monacantha, so they're the prickly pear cactus, but they have this beautiful variegation on them. I think I banged on about the plant in the window not long ago. So these are smaller versions of the same thing. When I say these two are mine, the reason I say that is because this entire shelf is actually disappearing today. It's part of one of the deals that I hopefully have made, you know, for some ongoing sales. And so I think I'm keeping one of the big ones in the corner, and the rest of those are all going later today. It's always a very bittersweet thing selling plants. I love plants. I love selling plants because it means other people are getting them. They're getting the joy of them in their house. But I find it very difficult to part with my plants. You know, there's maybe a Buddhist lesson in detachment there or something. A few of my customers, my regular customers, they have noticed that, and they, you know, we have a running joke now where they have to kind of fight me to take my plants out of my house. It's kind of funny considering, you know, they come, they give me money. It's very, you know, very gracious, and then, you know, I'm acting like a little diva about it, but I think they understand where I'm coming from, and that's partly why they like coming to me, because they know the plants have had a lot of love and a lot of TLC, possibly some overbearing love sometimes, but we won't get into that conversation. Here we have a load of aloe vera terrariums. I also, again, terrarium loosely used because it's more just layers in glass jars, but they look amazing. They seem quite happy from it. Small ones at the front, I've been trialing at like £3, and the big ones at the back at £5 each. And yeah, they've been doing fairly well. We've got a little jade forest starting off in the back there. That's more just there because I haven't got any space left anywhere else. And then over here I have a load of trailing succulents propagating. So I'm not good with these, I'm new to these. So there's string of hearts. One might be a Hoya, string of pearls. I forget what this one is over here. This one is a Ripsalis, red Ripsalis. Again, new to me. Some kind of cactus family, but very different looking. It's very similar to the Christmas cactus that you would have seen earlier. So that's new to me. But yeah, they seem to be rooting very nicely. They're just in normal water. All the videos say you should change the water out every week or so. I haven't changed it out once. It's probably been there 2 months. I've had to top up the string of pearls particularly once or twice because the level had gone down. But they seem to be rooting up nicely. I don't know if that will be visible. Yeah, you can see it's not. Yeah, a bit clearer there. There are some roots coming out. So it's taken a while. They've been there a good couple of months or more. But they are rooting up nicely. Once they've got some decent roots, obviously I will pot those individually and find somewhere to trail them. I mean, I've got probably get rid of some of these pots and start trailing it around here. That would be pretty cool. Or over the door, just over here. This is the front door, and so if I was to trail it here, the options are endless with that. And I would like to propagate more and more of those in time because they're very popular and they just look amazing. The effect that they bring is really cool. I am tempted to pot them all together, but then someone told me they get entangled in a way that looks messy and you can't actually untangle them without damaging. So I'm happy to follow that. I've pretty much done this shelf already. I got these from a guy in Ripley and he really blessed me. The quantity, the price, everything. And he just kept throwing more plants at me. Possibly because he could see how enthusiastic I was about it all. He had some amazing aloes, some huge prickly pears. Basically, he has outdoor heated greenhouses. He heats them with paraffin, and yeah, they were absolutely amazing. I was roaring at his collection, quite literally. I was stood there grunting at it. I was grunting at aloe plants and some of his jade and all sorts. It was really amazing, and so that's where I got these from, and hopefully I will be getting more from him soon. I'd like to go and spend some time with him and learn from him as well, but he seemed to be a reserved guy, so maybe I need to chill out a little bit. And so yeah, that's the Apuntia monocantha. Absolutely gorgeous. The variegation, sorry, on some of these, variation isn't wrong, I suppose, is absolutely amazing. Can I take this moment to apologise for my shoddy camera work? I am by no stretch a cameraman, and so if there's been any jerking or flickering or shaking or anything like that, I apologise for that. I'm sure they'll improve as I do more and I learn. Bottom shelf, I've just got some Crassula Ovata, so some jade forests that I planted myself, again branches off the old mother tree. Got a couple of troughs, one big square one there, so they're just doing their thing, and the hope would be in time I'll have loads of jade forests that I can then either bonsai up or keep them growing as forests. I've got this one here, little guest appearance from Mr. Santo. Hello, you chilling? Are you trying to be part of the show? Well, you've been a good boy about it, so I don't mind. I mean, you can see that I've got a little chihuahua, and right next to it is a huge jade forest, so they're pretty much the same. I couldn't have planned that better, actually. That's so cute. And so yeah, so the idea is to get more jade forests like this. I don't know if the trunks, sorry, are showing at that angle. But yeah, it's already developing into a nice tree. The background, I think I've been subconsciously trying to avoid it, partly possibly because of the mess in the background, but also because the state of this damn plant. It's a Monstera dubia, and when I got it, I hate to admit, it had the junior leaves all the way down, and these are beautiful moss poles. I like these modern moss poles. I'll speak about those in another video. It had junior leaves all the way down, which are a bit of a limey green colour, and they have more of a pattern on them. Then it had this, as it should, and then it had this all the way up. And this plant cost me some money, and clearly it has been a learning curve. I discovered only a couple of weeks ago that there are some roots coming out of the bottom, and I think I've left it sitting in water a couple of times, thinking that they will wick it up, and it hasn't. First I lost the junior leaves, then I've lost the top leaves, and so at the minute the hope is that I've already chopped it here because I was going to propagate this, but the hope is that I've got some nodes that I can propagate. A couple of the leaves seem to have clung on for dear life, and so if I can get a few new plants out of that, it won't be a total loss. This is still looking good. I can get this looking good. I think I know what I'm doing now. Possibly the location of it as well. I've had it in the door in the plant room, and it gets full sun in the afternoon, so it's possibly sat in too much water and got baked at the same time. And so at least I think I've learned from the mistake. It's a real shame because it was really beautiful. I had a customer pestering me to buy it, and I said to them, let me propagate it first. And I think deep down something was telling me, you know what, you might have messed this plant up, so don't sell it to them because you're setting them up for failure and possibly, yourself for a refund or whatever. And so I've kept it. I was right about being wrong, and so yeah, but to be fair, in the entire collection, I think my rubber plant and this are the only two that I've had any problems with, so that's not bad going for the hundreds of plants that I think I've shown you by now. As I say, it is a shame that I can't pan the whole view in one go, but we'll have to work with what we've got. So let's see if I can do a quick shot. So coming back out of the plant room, that's a pretty nice shot. If this door could fully get out of the way, that's a pretty decent shot of the racks, the windowsill and the corner. As we come out, maybe if I shut the door and come back again, you can see that's not a bad collection for just a couple of racks, a bay window and a little entrance porch. And hopefully after the sales that I've been kind of alluding to a couple of times throughout the video, it can be more than, we can expand back into either commercial or units, greenhouses, something like that. So I hope you've enjoyed this plant tour. I know it's been a bit hit and miss with the camera angles, the photography, and possibly me droning on, but I just wanted to get a quick show of that. I might do a very quick video once all the plants have gone and we can have a little comparison of, can you spot the difference or whatever? Has it made much more space, or do I actually have a lot more than I realise? But yeah, thank you very much for joining me on this one. I know it's been a long one. I'm not going to do many of these update videos because obviously I've given you a full tour, and so yeah, thank you very much. It's Anonymous Aloe Nottingham checking out. Peace. You know, it's funny because I often watch plant tour videos, and as they're going around, sometimes I might be thinking, oh, why haven't they showed this, why haven't they mentioned that? And now doing my own plant tour, I realise how easy it is to miss out plants or entire sections of plants. So here we have my bedroom windowsill. It's a north facing window, so it doesn't get any direct sunlight whatsoever, but it does get bright morning light, and as you can see, it's okay in the afternoon as well. The contrast isn't very good because I'm working against the light here, but there's nothing I can do about that. Now, as you can see here, it is mainly Jade Money Plants, Crassula Ovata, and then there are some spider plants as well. Now, the spider plants I've actually got in here because they apparently deal with mold and, you know, other environmental toxins in the air. And so I've got a fair few, as you can see. I've got a whole tray down there. They're the baby ones, and then I've got the bigger ones up here, and they seem to be perfectly happy in this north facing window. Same with the jades, they seem to be doing very well. Now, this is my personal collection, none of these are for sale, and as you can see, I'm just developing loads of different ideas. I've got loads of jades in bonsai pots. I've got one here, the light's not showing very well, but I basically chopped everything off it, and then the idea is it will redevelop new leaves and they will be more compact and it will look like a small tree. Same with all of these. Some of them are a bit wild and I'm just leaving them to see what they do. This one's coming along nicely. Here's a perfect example of what I was just talking about. So you chop off all the limbs and then they resprout these small leaves, and in time those will be teeny tiny canopies and they'll look pretty cool. A few more over here, another one where I've done the exact same thing, where you can see that's more developed now, where it's got about 5-6 shoots coming off the end of it. Some only have one coming off the end of it, like that one there. Also, something to mention is I've been experimenting with different top dressings. So I've been using sand for some of them, lava rock, perlite, gravel, all sorts of different stuff, just to see what works well, what looks the nicest. But yeah, this is my bedroom windowsill jade collection with a few spider plants, and in the corner, if it will adjust contrast, I have one of my mother plants, Swiss cheese, Monstera deliciosa. There's a Dracaena and a Monstera that I've repotted. They're not looking great at the minute, but they probably, if they root, then they will be fine. If they don't, then they'll wither away. But at the minute, they're not looking too happy, but that's totally normal. That's to be expected, really. I think I can probably take all this off. Will it come off? Yeah. All of that's come off. Hopefully that will root. If not, no issue. So yeah, that's just a little conclusion to the tour. I'd forgotten about all the jade plants in my bedroom, possibly because they're not for sale. They're my private collection at the moment. In time, I hope to develop some of these into beautiful bonsais and offer them to the public, but for now I'm just working on them and enjoying them myself. So yeah, there we go.